Boxing. Beats and rhymes.
No one can do it better.
Managers of fighters and legal representation are at odds with this 2% levy / tax that is taken from fighters' purses, aka commission tax. Some have won their concessions back, is what it says in this boxing scene article. Frank Warren defends the practice. Now, we're talking about the British Boxing Board of Control, who are a private organisation not supported by public funds, while most commissions around the world and boards of control are funded by public money through the government, etc. The board are funded by boxing licenses going to boxers, promoters, trainers, etc. Now, the foreign parties have always played ball when they've came to the UK and paid the 2% tax, but it's became an issue with RYADH season, because when the contracts are drafted up, it's almost something that you can look past and not see, is what some figureheads in America are saying, but they're not happy about it. Bivol and Madrimov, their attorney, he wasn't impressed at all. Lou DiBella, he says the Queensberry tax should be the promoter's event expense, according to the Ali Act mandates, while a powerful American commission head added the Ali Act exists to protect fighters putting their lives on the line, not members of the commission. Is this a typo in the article? It's saying objecting to Queensberry Promotions Commission tax. Wouldn't it be the British Boxing Board of Control tax? Then again, powerful promoters have basically ran the British Boxing Board, had them in their pocket, and they can't do me for slander because the receipts are abundant. Queensberry's Frank Warren's promotion, but if we do the history, the National Sporting Club was founded in 1891, of which Lord Lonsdale was the first president. This was a private club that introduced the Marquess of Queensberry rules to boxing. And in 1929, they became the British Boxing Board of Control. I thought this was a typo at first when they kept saying Queensberry. Queensberry we know as Frank Warren's promotional outlet, but no. Frank Warren and Queensberry are involved in the aggrieved parties' complaints. After Queensberry gathered signed contracts for other fighters to pay the commission tax in prior Saudi Arabia-based shows regulated by the British Boxing Board of Control. This is Frank Warren. Isn't he too close to the situation here? Turkey, at the end of the article, the Saudis, I should say, have recently consulted with US commission heads and the leaders of the major sanctioning bodies in an effort to create their own gold standard commission. The British Boxing Board of Control is within its rights to reduce the quantum of the levy, the tax, it takes based on various factors upon petition by a boxer or promoter, Queensberry wrote in a statement. Similarly, promoters may take on responsibility for payment of the levy as part of the normal commercial negotiations. Let's not get it twisted. This has happened in British boxing since the National Sporting Club became the British Boxing Board of Control. But there's a lot of stuff coming out there. How deep is Frank involved in the running of the events? You see, when I say I've got receipts, let me tell you this now, right? Before Frank Warren, Jarvis Astaire and Mickey Duff have got up in boxing events outside of the UK and said, we are speaking for the British Boxing Board of Control. Frank Warren got tournament breaks and a lot of other stuff after he basically bankrupted the board, helping Michael Watson put his case together after he was let down by the provisions in concerns with his brain injuries after he lost to Chris Eubank Jr. And after Frank nearly broke them, he helped them reform with MRIs, and it was a favour basically for more favours. I don't know if it's a conflict of interest. I don't know how everything is drafted, so I can't say that. It's because they're saying, okay, if a fight card totals $75 million in purse money, then it could conceivably generate $1.5 million in the coffers of the British Boxing Board of Control. That's a lot of money, It's a lot. But, they've got to pay administration, insurance, and whatever other expenses. Compare that to California, they're saying here, America's busiest boxing state. They can only collect a maximum of 5% of live gate money and 5% of broadcast revenue for a maximum regulatory fee of $235,000 for its biggest shows. But they're saying if you start taking money like that, that's a big difference between the British Boxing Board of Control and US commissions, said Andy Foster from the California State Commission. And yeah, the purses they're earning in Saudi is big. But he said, let's say there was one fight, or one card should I say, with 25 million in purses. That's 500,000 in fees. But Smith firmly denies anything close to 500 grand will be taken from 25 million. A fee for the entire show is agreed upon with the purses in mind, and it's not a blanket 2% taken from every purse. Bivol and his February 22nd opponent Artur Beterbiev should easily exceed 20 million in combined purse money. A representative of Beterbiev declined to comment on how he dealt with the commission tax. A lot of people don't want to speak in this article or on this topic. They're staying anonymous. One American promoter who stayed anonymous, he countered that the rich purses and tax freedom in the Middle East are required to convince some fighters and their handlers to risk their belts and record. He said, why would I go to Saudi Arabia if I wasn't getting a tax break? Yeah, well, of course, you know what I mean? The more money you're going to get, they're going to pitch you in harder fights. They're not just going to give you Gervonta Davis type opponents for the type of money they're paying out. Some are asking, are the Saudis concerned with what's going on? Or do they even know about it? Some purses for the card that included Queensberry's IBF heavyweight title holder Daniel Dubois were negotiated differently. Some with the commission levy included, some without it, to be paid separately. Promoters may take on responsibility for payment of the levy as part of the normal commercial negotiations for any fight. Well, the Saudis have elected the Brits to be the main commission, and this is how they're doing business. And if the American fighters want that big bag, for now they're going to have to comply until this super commission is formed over there at RYADH. Big up Everything Boxing. He observes here that Keith Connolly got Edgar Berlanga released from his Top Rank contract and secured him a free fight deal with Matchroom that saw him land the Canelo fight. Teofimo Lopez is another fighter that has vocalized his unhappiness with his promotional situation with Top Rank. And we can see Teo here with Mike Bora and Keith Connolly to the left of the picture, who also manages Richardson Hitchins. Keith has a very good working relationship with Eddie Hearn. Teo's still contracted with Top Rank. He hasn't bought the contract out or nothing like that. I don't know if they let him fight off the grid on a Matchroom card. I don't know. Maybe Bob's had enough of him right now. And they've been talking about Teo Richardson Hitchins. And until I see it in the ring, I'm not convinced. The style is all wrong for him, isn't it? No? But it says in this Ring Magazine article that Teofimo is now managed by Keith Connolly. So with Keith managing him and Richardson Hitchins, but Hitchins being promoted by Eddie Hearn and Teo being promoted by Bob, I guess it would just go on both networks. But it looks like this fight is going ahead. Who you got? Lawrence Okolie, former cruiserweight, bridgerweight champion, 21-1, 16 inside the distance, could be facing Luis Ortiz, 34 wins, 3 losses, 29 inside the distance. What can you say, you know what I mean? Like, no one will expect a 45-year-old Ortiz to beat up on a 32-year-old Lawrence Okolie. I mean, the inactivity for Ortiz is pretty bad. 4 fights since 2019 when he lost to Deontay Wilder. His last fight was against a super middleweight / light heavy, posing as a heavyweight. He's now been knocked out 22 times. That was hidden away in Colombia somewhere, that fight. It's hard to say, like, Okolie to me is just bizarre right now at heavy. He came in the last fight, had a bit of a pot belly, weighed in at 260. 260. 35 pounds more than his bridgerweight fight. You know, Okolie's had a few light touches now already. Like, let's face it, the bridgerweight fight against Rosansky, how long did that go? And then his debut on Queensberry, how long did that go? If I'm being generous, he should be cleaning Ortiz out quickly and clinically. And then we need to get him a serious opponent to see what's going on, really. Because he's 32. Like, what's going on? Frank signed another heavyweight today. He's just got heavyweights everywhere. You can't find a Okolie a decent opponent, Frank? Come on now. It looks like Pitbull Cruz wants to focus in on his next fight, so he withdrew himself from a potential Ryan Garcia fight, and then they dug up Romero's name from somewhere. It should be relatively routine for Ryan Garcia, but nevertheless, a fight he shouldn't be taking, because he's been talking about he can beat Terrence Crawford, Jerron Boots Ennis. He's been saying both of them don't fight anybody, and now he's fighting Rolly Romero. Unacceptable. Just on the strength of his own verbiage. Rolly looked totally demoralized after Pitbull smashed him up last year. So Pitbull versus Ryan would have been in May. Pitbull fights on the 1st of February and said he didn't want to be distracted until he finishes his fight on February the 1st. Well, February is a little way away from May. Boxing is a sport where, because there isn't a league calendar, okay, you don't want to take your eye off the ball from February the 1st, but you have to always have it in mind that there might be another date a couple of months after. What's the next fight after his next fight? So that pullout just seems a little weird to me. I mean, how much are you getting paid to fight Ryan Garcia? Basically a Saudi bag.
Keith.
Of champions.
Show's over.
I was a 7-time national champion.
Show's over, Keith. It's over. It's over now. It's finished.
The show has just begun, my friend, and you're the first opening act. And you're going to get a big welcoming slap. I promise you,
You're
kid.
looking for tune-up fights.
I promise
you're doing that.
You got dropped. You got dropped 2 fights ago. You got stopped. You got knocked out, kid. I've never been knocked out in a fight against any of the world champions. The greatest amongst the greats.
The time is up.
You
had your time. You had your one time.
You will not handle 5 rounds. Guaranteed.
It's over.
You're just a child to me,
You had
son.
your one time.
You're an amateur.
You're an old man.
You're
to
an
me.
amateur.
You're well and truly past it. It's all over.
And just like your daddy, I'm going to give you a good whooping. Just like your I'm going to give you that whooping. How do you say it? Whooping.
Just show up on Australian soil, Keith. I feel much better when you get here. You know, I won't worry anymore about you pulling out like you have in the past.
That was one fight. I've pulled out of 2 fights
Correct.
due to 2 injuries. One was a whiplash against Sean Porter, which I gave him the fight and I won. I should have just beat Tim Tszyu one-handed. Y'all saw what happened. It's a big mistake. You mess with the big fish, USA. We run boxing. You don't run boxing. We run boxing. I've been about this life, son. I've been about this life. You already got slapped the first time you tried to meet a champ.
Keith Thurman versus Brock Jarvis. Jarvis has come back with 2 stoppage defeats since getting smashed to pieces by Liam Paro back in 2022. And it looks like the PBC ain't got no work for Keith. They ain't got no work for none of their fighters. So Keith is going to have to head over to Oz, do the commute. Thurman hasn't fought since February 2022. He pulled out of the Tim Tszyu fight last year, another Australian. At 36, what's Keith got left in the tank? What's he fighting for? Is he fighting to get back in the title picture? Or does he need a check, like all working people need a check? If he loses to Brock Jarvis, that would be a huge upset. A huge upset. Even as inactive as he is, Keith, in his prime, was a good fighter. Levels above what the likes of Brock Jarvis has shown in his career. Levels above. He knows what the deal is, you know what I mean? Like, they're trying to use him as a stepping stone. The Australians will be treating this like a world title fight. That's what they'll be treating it like. It goes to the scorecards. If it's anything like a close fight, we'll see. So this is a no-limit promotion, just like Tim Tszyu versus Matazaliev. It's on pay-per-view in Australia as well. So Keith is in enemy territory. I've got a feeling it could be an upset. I just have a feeling. Would it be an upset, actually? Keith, 36, inactive. March the 7th, all-women's card. Natasha Jonas takes on Lauren Price in a unification at welter. That's the main event. Frank Warren, I want to say he's cashing Raven Chapman out, but she was washed by Sky Nicholson last time out, challenging for Sky's featherweight title on the Perturbia Bivol undercard. And Frank don't have no women's boxing there really, apart from Raven. There's no other featherweight, so she takes on Curtis Argenstall. Should be a good fight. Caroline Dubois, she has a 2 be announced on the card, and they've signed this Olympian, Cindy Nagamba. Caroline Dubois is chasing this unification with Terri Harper. Boxer have made an offer. Terri Harper replied, She said she's the 3-weight world champion and 200k for an all-British unification on 7 weeks' notice is not enough money for her to risk her health making the weight. From what she remembers, Eddie Hearn offered Boxer twice that for the Natasha Jonas rematch. She wants to be paid her worth with fair notice and then the fight will happen, in reply to Caroline Dubois. Now, 200k seems like a good purse. But, you know, Terry is managed by Steffi Bull, promoted by Eddie Hearn. There's a battle of chess and checkers here, isn't it? Basically. And as it stands, Matchroom have more pieces on the board than Boxer. So Eddie's going to play this one very smart. Katie Taylor having the WBA and Ring Magazine titles and the WBC title. Caroline Dubois has the interim belt. I think she may have been elevated to full champion since this update. I think she may have been. IBF 135-pound champion for women, Beatrice Ferreira, Matchroom. WBO champion, Terri Harper, Matchroom. So Boxer don't have enough pieces on the table to really play here. Katie Taylor is the trump card. Doesn't seem like none of the girls below are going to get the fight with Katie, at least for now. Caroline Dubois would be a big favourite in a unification versus Terri Harper. Just like she would have been a big favourite for that vacant IBF strap against Rhiannon Dixon last year. So Eddie withdrew Rhiannon Dixon from that fight and said, Dixon can go fight for the WBO strap, but Caroline can fight Ferreira for the IBF strap. And we know the Brazilian girl Ferreira is not nobody's first choice. So Eddie Hearn was like, the winner out of Beatrice and Caroline will become IBF champion and they can fight the winner out of Rhiannon Dixon and her opponent for the WBO strap, unification. So Ben Shalom and Caroline, they walked away from that and basically waited to get emailed the WBC belt via Katie Taylor. Terri Harper beat Rhiannon Dixon for that belt last year. You know, when it was unifications with Rhiannon Dixon, Caroline was all up for it. And the same thing with Terri Harper, all up for it. Her language is very positive.
Terri Harper hasn't found her pen yet, and I don't know if she ever will. You know, she's been quite disappointing, to be honest. We sent big money. She wants retirement money. Also, I don't know where she left it. Maybe in the ring, she fought Alicia Baumgartner, and the fire, the intensity is gone. She ain't about it anymore.
Bring up Beatrice Ferreira, though. She becomes very diplomatic.
Obviously, Matchroom have another world champion in Beatrice Ferreira. There's been a lot of talk about you two crossing paths at some point. When do we see yourself and Beatrice Ferreira share a ring? Oh,
definitely by the end of this year. You know, I see Beatrice has been the toughest fight at 135, and that's even taken into account of Alicia Baumgartner. Just stylistically, I think Beatrice is a tougher opponent, and because of that, I want it to be a big occasion. I want to get the money that I deserve, and I want it to be an occasion that I think brings in the value of the fight.
Beatrice, looking for the smoke, replied, "You are right, Caroline. You are not scary. A friend told me you were offered a fight with me on the Eubank Ben undercard in April in your hometown with 14 weeks to prepare, but you said no. Anyway, we can do it on March the 7th. The beast is always ready." Oh, she's offering to be her to be announced on the Natasha Jonas Lauren Price card. I mean, look at that, Ben. Ben always wants to keep the fights in-house. You can have this fight in-house. They're giving you Beatrice Ferreira, just like Frank Warren is giving Ben Raven Chapman. No reply from Ben, no reply from Caroline Dubois.
The shit's chess, it ain't checkers.